Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Ask the Theologian. Glad you are here. I hope you are ready for a great, exciting, fun, wonderful, and tremendous day. How's all that? Because we're going to come and we're going to take your biblical, theological, and worldview questions and going to give a rightly divided answer, and we are going to come, who knows, with a little bit of entertainment, with a little bit of sarcasm, maybe ring the snarky bell here today. We're going to question the assumptions. We are going to be ready to go, and I look forward to having you with us. Oops, as we're ready to go there. Now, I like what Jim in South Carolina had to say. Said on Sunday, you mentioned Samuel Morse sent by telegraph, "What hath God wrought?" This was May 24th, 1844. And he says, since May 24th is your birthday, it's possible that Morse was prophesying what is to come on a future May 24th. You might be right. You might be right. You might be wrong. You might be right. Who knows? But welcome. Glad all of you are here. If you got a question live, you can put it in our chat box, either on randywhiteministries.org or youtube.com. And you can also, of course, go to randywhiteministries.org, find that Ask a Question button, send it in 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we will get you taken care of. How's that all ready and good to go? Let's see. Let's go today to Jesse. This question came in last Friday. Sorry, I'm a little behind on it. But Jesse says, how do I find the study notes for your teaching on Revelation, especially the Behold series? Well, let's see. There are a couple of ways. Let me show you the preferred way, because I'm selling something, and the cheap way, if you don't want to buy anything from me. But here we go. So you go to dispensationalpublishing.com. It just so happens, by the way, I wanted to say something about this anyway. Got this new book, The Mayflower Pilgrims. Here it is right there in England, the Netherlands, and America. This is absolutely free. It's not published by Dispensational Publishing, but I know the author, Dr. David Beale, has given us permission to distribute it. He distributes this free. You can just pick it up here, and all you got to do is click right down there. It's a free download, and you just, you add it to your cart. Now, you do have to choose your format here. Do you want an EPUB or do you want a PDF? Okay, just depends on how you like to look at it. EPUB, of course, sort of keeps track of where you are. It is, in print, it's 275 pages. So it's a 275-page PDF. If you're planning on printing it, that might be a little pricey. But we do not have the print version. So anyway, all that is free. But if you go up here to the search box right here on any of the dispensational publishing and just type, I believe we can just type Behold. Let's try this out. And here you go. Behold, study outlines on the book of Revelation. This one's $14.99. It is one of these that when you order it, we are going to send you a paper copy, but you'll also get in your downloads, you'll have a, I don't remember if it's a PDF or an ebook version, or you can just go here and click the ebook version, and you can get that, and it's a little cheaper than $14.99. $14.99, basically, you get both of them there. By the way, once you order that, if you go, I'm not logged in here, but if you go to, I think there's it changes to my account or something like that, it'll show all your downloads, and you'll be able to take that. So that is the. I'll say that's the cleanest and the easiest. Now, it's not the only way, and if you just want, one or two sessions, you might want to go, let's see here, to randywhiteministries.org. Here it is. Slide down all the way to the bottom and then find the RWM Connect. If you are connected, then it brings you up here. Yours may look different than mine because I'm an administrator, but then you can just go over here and click. Let's see, my screen doesn't show everything there, so I'm sort of guessing. There it is. Click the files, and then, of course, click New Testament, and then just look down until you find Revelation in here somewhere. I don't know if it's called Behold or if it's called Revelation or what it's called, but there we go. I actually got two. You got the verse-by-verse series or the preaching series. The verse-by-verse series is the one that's in print, and it's the longer one. And then you can find them all there, and you can download them one at a time. But if you just need one, there you go. Now, if you're not a member of Connect, then you do have to request, and we send an email. It's not the smoothest process, but it is the process. So there you go. Or, you can always just email me too and say, hey, I need session 27, and can send it. So there, options. We give you options. That's the way it works. Thanks for that. I appreciate that. Question, Jesse. Glad, I hope that, I started to say, I'm glad it's valuable to you. I hope it's valuable to you. Who knows? Maybe, writing a blog against me or something like that. You just never know. But I certainly do appreciate it there. And here now on this Tuesday, let's go to our next question, which also, this one came in Sunday. It comes from Tim. Good to see you. Let's see here. Tim says, do you know of a Grace Church located in Hinesville, Georgia, where Fort Stewart is located? And also a Grace Church located in Columbia, Georgia, near Fort Benning. My grandson, who's in the Army, is looking, God bless your grandson, for two things, for being in the Army and for looking for a Grace Church. Let's see, there are a couple of directories out there. Berean Bible Society's got one. WWURD. Let's see, what is that? I think I've got that. Let's try COM, maybe. I think they've got one. I want to see if I've got. There are some Grace churches in Georgia. Yes, here is. If I can get where I can see here. Here is the WWURD. And they've got, is it in their directory here? Possibly. They've got, a Grace Church directory. So again, you could look up Georgia, and then they're just listed here, so you do have to kind of thumb through. But unfortunately, typically, it's not that much. There's our friend Drew Elrod, the Salem Baptist Church. That's up in Calhoun, Georgia, northwest Georgia. And some home Bible studies there. So I would say look through that and look through Berean Bible Society. See what you get there. I'm halfway there. See what you get and see if that helps you. Some of these are hard to find. Sadly and strangely, hard to find. Again, what was that? 6 or 7 in the state of Georgia? There likely are more. Most Grace churches, Grace fellowships, Grace Bible studies, pretty small. And Therefore, a lot of times they don't have a website. They don't do it's all word of mouth locally. So finding them can be kind of difficult. Another thing that I find is more true than the grace community wants to admit is that there are some denominational churches that are actually right dividers hidden, embedded within their denominations. And many in the grace movement, and this might be true of the Berean Bible Society, I'm not sure, but many in the grace movement are allergic to those, and they won't allow it because it doesn't quite divide quite like we do. And, there might be a little bit of difference, or they might actually get, a Baptist bulletin or something like that. And so they're kept off the list when they might be some decent right dividers. So it's finding a needle in the haystack, honestly. But I have seen right division churches in Southern Baptist. I've seen them among Independent Baptist. I have seen them, for example, Salem Baptist in Calhoun, Georgia, is a right dividing church with a Baptist on its sign, and so they're in there. But some of the grace directories won't put them if they are a part of a denomination there, I've even seen them in the United Church of Christ, which is the most flaming liberal denomination there is in the United States. And I know of 2 right dividing churches within that denomination, because there are, in some of these denominations, there is still quite a bit of local autonomy. So it becomes hard to find there. Check those out. Let me know if you find something. Always interested in that. Let's see. David Osteen is somewhere in Georgia, but I'm not exactly sure. He doesn't always like me, but nonetheless, he's out there somewhere again in Georgia, and that's a possibility there. Appreciate that. Let's go to our friend Cash in Ellendale, Washington. I see you guys are supposed to get some rain. That's what our friend Ryan Hall said anyway. Cash says, isn't Acadia I'm going to make sure I said that right. Acedia. I'm going to look this up just a second. Isn't it actually the appeal to join the Roman Catholic Church for the modern carnal society? Acadia, maybe it's acedia, I don't know, is a dangerous vice, the Pope said. A little bit previous. I am going to have to look up and let's see. You pulled a new one on me. And let's see what Acadia or Acedia is here. And we're just going to go, I changed my mind. I said we were going to go Wikipedia, but now there's Grokopedia, if I can spell it right, and see if I can get us there. Let's just check it out. Nope, that's not it. I assume it's with an I. Try this one. There we go. Okay, I am going to let you all see this here. First time on air, I have been to Grokopedia. We debate this, and I keep forgetting. But we're going to go there. Grokopedia, and we're going to type Acadia. Let's see what we get here and see if they have an article on it. There we go. Okay, here we go. It says, let's see. I never, Acedia. Okay, from Latin. I wondered about that when I said it. Yeah, Acedia. Okay. From the ancient Greek, acridia, negligence. Interesting, cadia, care. Okay, we'll go with it. Has been variously defined as a state of listlessness or torpor. I might have that wrong too, of not caring and being concerted in ancient Greece, depictions in the early Christianity in the Middle Ages, the modern revival. Let's check this. The term had all but died out in common usage. Well, I guess at least where I go, it had all but died out in common usage by the beginning of the 20th century. In 1933, Oxford English Dictionary was confidently declared obsolete with references dating to 1520 and 1730. But by the mid-20th century, as people were contending with the two world wars, this word was back in use, no longer the exclusive property of theologians. The word appears in the writings of Aldous Huxley, Ian Fleming. Revival continued into the late 20th, 21st centuries with authors exploring its relevance in modern life. Kathleen Norris published Acedia and Me, A Marriage, Monks, and Writer's Life, linking acedia, lack of care, to depression and personal struggles, drawing on her own experiences of historical texts in the 21st century. It is diagnosed in contexts such as, okay, so I'm not sure we're even talking about the same thing. Maybe we are. Looks like, let's just jump back right up here, not caring or not being concerned with one's position or condition in the world. In ancient Greek, literally meant a state of negligence or lack of care. And early Christian monks used the term to define a spiritual state of listlessness. And from there, the term developed a markedly Christian moral tone. In modern times, it's been taken up by literary figures and connected to depression. Okay. Let's see if we can put all of this together then with the question that Cash brings in. The Pope says a dangerous vice, but it does look to me like in monastic Catholicism, they could take acedia, not caring, especially if it's not caring about your status in life. They could take it almost equal with asceticism. I wouldn't be surprised if those aren't related words there. Asceticism is, again, leaving all the trappings of life and just, moving into a cave somewhere to spend sweet time with Jesus. Now, Cash gives a definition, acedia. Is that how you pronounce it, Cash? Is a state of spiritual apathy, listlessness, or boredom originating from the Greek lack of care, noonday demon. Okay. So a lot going on there. It looks to me, the Catholics call it noonday demon. I don't care. The noonday demon. I sort of get it there. So I'm taking it, the Catholics are against it, even though I was kind of putting it together with the monks. I guess I was trying to make it more like asceticism instead of acedia, instead of the noonday demon. So the noonday demon is, I don't care. Is there, look up, Luca, if you would, other than apathy, is there a psychological term that is used if I just don't care and I'm going to see the therapist to find out why I just don't care? What do they diagnose me of? Do they use that word or do they use a different word? I want to know because I care. The whole lack of care thing. It obviously can come to the point of it's such a divorce from the world, a divorce from society. But there are times, it's take your dog to work day again. There are times when also you have it's a good thing not to care. There's a lot of things. It's like, I don't care. But as Cash narrows it here, blindly following the church, there is so much of that. So you don't care enough to do the work yourself, just blindly following. So is it, I don't care that I don't care, or I care that I don't care? I don't care because I trust those who care and I leave it to them, or I don't care because they, what's all, there's a lot of different ways you could go with that. Acedia. Is there, if I went to the therapist or the psychologist, I suppose, would they diagnose me with something?
They have more specific terms like anhedonia.
Anhedonia?
The inability to feel pleasure or interest in activity.
Oh, okay. That would be you don't have any hedonism in you. You don't go out and have any fun. Do they give drugs for anhedonia? I'm just curious. Let's see what the, they got to put a number down to get their billing from the Affordable Care Act. Usidia? Ossidia? Ossidia? Ossedia. Ah, emphasis on the se. That makes sense. Okay, Ossedia. Ossedia? Ossedia. We'll get it. Okay, you got me, Cash.
It usually is associated with depression or schizophrenia. So.
Oh, okay. They associate it with depression, schizophrenia. That's the lack of caring about having any pleasure in life. I didn't catch quite what I took it as hedonism. There's no. So I'm sure they then drug you for depression. Okay. Wouldn't you agree with me? There is a fine line. Whether it's the theology in your church or it's something else, there's a fine line between caring too much about things that you don't need to care about, where you're trying to solve every problem of the world, and being so removed from it that absolutely nothing has any thrill to life anymore because you just don't care. I don't care what I eat. I don't care what I wear. I don't care what I do. I don't care where we go. I don't care where. You can go way too far on that. Cash says, at his weekly general audiences, Pope Francis has been looking. This must be a little dated because Francis is dead. I don't think he's been looking. But Pope Francis has been looking at the capital sins or vices that tempt people. Today he focused on acedia, which is often translated as sloth, but is much more. Okay, so Francis must have been looking at this. I do see now it was dated 2/14/2024, and he called it a dangerous vice. Well, let's just wrap this up saying this. I think that when it comes to theology, let's put this in several ways. I think theology, I think medicine, I would go ahead and say certain areas of legality. I would never trust the expert, because those are all areas in which there can be way too much nuance. And an expert, like a theologian, has a particular perspective of nuance. And so if I take an acedia point of view towards the teaching in my church, that noonday demon comes in and knocks me out, then I'm gonna swallow all his mistakes. And I don't know if that cough right there was well timed or not, but I'm going to swallow all his mistakes. So have some care, especially when it comes to theology, when it comes to medicine, especially your own health. I'd say when it comes to politics, I heard today that the Republicans were starving people and using them for their tools for their own political gains, and I heard that the Democrats were starving people and using them for tools for their own political gains. Well, I guess both of those could be right, but I don't think the two people that were talking both meant them to be right. So there's some nuance there, which basically means don't let that noonday demon take over. But then at the same time, let me say there are some things that you're not going to fix it anyway. And so to spend your time dealing with it, all that kind of stuff, I think, you can get into a world of hurt real quick trying to take care of all of those various issues. Thanks for that. Good question. Appreciate it there. Thank you very much. Let's go to Gary in DeBerry, who brought a question in on Monday. And down in Florida, he says, you may have answered this question and I missed it. I believe you said the 7 assemblies in the book of Revelation were future assemblies. That is my position, by the way. And I might add, since we were talking about the book of Revelation, I do have that in the Behold book. Since that came up, and I happen to have that, a different view of the 7 churches, that they are future assemblies. Now, with that, Gary goes on, since they have works involved, they must be Jews under the law. Now, you make an assumption there, which I agree with. But we question the assumption, so we'll pull those out. They have works involved. Indeed, they do. When you go to Revelation 2 and 3, you don't have to read very far at all in these assemblies. Oops, I got Romans there. Revelation 2, he writes right there, I know thy works, thy labor. This stuff is all through. Now there's a good work, but then in verse 5, I have somewhat against thee because thou hast left thy first love. Now that's a work of sort or a lack thereof. And in fact, right here in verse 5, do the first works or else. Now, that doesn't sound like by grace through faith, not of works, do the works. That sounds more like a Calvinist talking right there because they don't know how to rightly divide. So, you don't, again, we just went through the first 5 verses of the 7 letters. And we see works. On the good and on the bad, you're blessed because of your works, you're cursed because of your works, you get rewards because of your works, you have to repent because of your works. This does not sound like, well, it might sound like a local Baptist church, but it does not sound like the Bible. It does not sound Pauline, right? So they have works involved. They must be Jews under the law. I would completely agree that is a good conclusion to make. Now, Gary goes on to say, these assemblies are in Muslim countries. I'm going to stop right there, even though there's more to this. Today, they are in a Muslim country. Let's call it that. Though I do want to look up one thing. Would you check Luca, is the country of Turkey officially Muslim or just majority Muslim? We know it's majority Muslim and they go by, but I don't know if it's in their constitution or is there, what I want to know, is there any freedom of religion in Turkey? It might just be on paper. Most of them on paper put something, but what reality is. So these are in what then was Asia Minor, what today is Turkey. And so, I know I've been to a couple of places in Turkey, not many, but I have been to Ephesus, which is this letter we were reading, and there's a Catholic shrines and things there in Ephesus. So somebody's carrying out Catholicism. There might be a few Jews in Turkey. probably not many, but I do know that Turkish Airlines, which I think is a fine airline, by the way, Turkish Airlines goes direct from Istanbul to Tel Aviv, so they got some, they're in NATO, that kind of thing. What is Turkey Muslim?
It's officially a secular country.
Officially a secular country. Okay, majority Muslim, right?
Freedom of religion.
I'm sorry?
There's freedom of religion.
Okay, there is, on paper at least, it's a secular country and a freedom of religion. I kind of suspected that. So, a couple of things I want to say. These assemblies are in Muslim countries. Well, sort of. It's a much more liberal Muslim country than it's not like all the Allah Republic of Iran. However, what I think is even more important than that is that I think you can make a case that by the time we get to beyond the rapture, now the rapture could happen today, so this doesn't have to happen before the rapture, but somewhere beyond the rapture, I think you can make a case to say Islam is going to fall like a house of cards. It doesn't have much going on it intellectually. There's not a lot to prop it up. Brainwashing and more brainwashing is what props it up. So I wouldn't be surprised if the whole concern about, let's say, the future Antichrist is Muslim. You hear about that, he's the 12th Imam, all that Imam. I think they're reading today's newspaper into the Bible. I'm not real sure that the last days world after the rapture, at least after a time of preparation, I'm not real sure that it's very Muslim. Even the fact that you've got a temple out there somewhere says somewhere out there, because right now, I forget the name of it, but the Muslims control Temple Mount. And that would have to change. And Israel can't really just go in and take over. Now, even though they took Temple Mount in 1967, they New York minute, they gave that thing back. Because they knew it would be, all the Muslim world would do everything they could do to eradicate them. So I think there's a case to be made to say Islam falls. Now, that's a little bit of speculation there. I'm just going more by what I read about the end times. And one of these things is, hey, you got these, seems to be pretty prominent assemblies in what today is a majority Muslim country. Okay, what's up with this? Now we go on. These assemblies are all in Muslim countries. So does that mean they are Muslims? Let's see, the Muslims. Oh, I got to read this correctly. Does that mean the Muslims or their faith system must not exist anymore? How about that, Gary? Must not exist anymore, or they have all converted to the Jewish religion? Yeah, I do, after I finally read all the question. I do think there is that case to be made there, that Islam somehow is not there anymore. One of the things about this is Babylon. When you read about Babylon, the rebuilt Babylon in the future times, it does not seem like a Muslim country. It is much more secular than this. Maybe you could say, it's going to be a secular place, much like Persia. The Persians, Iran was quite a secular place back in its day before Jimmy Carter. And so maybe it's going to be that kind of secular Islamic faith, maybe. But I wouldn't be surprised if Islam is just a thing in the past. So therefore, those in that part of the world, maybe they're just secularists, which you could build a case there. Babylon looks like a secular city. Or maybe they're Jews. You could build a case there. Some of the wording in Zechariah especially gives idea that, maybe the future Babylon is kind of a secular Jewish city like Tel Aviv. A number of scenarios you could make. Now, my hunch is we make all the scenarios based upon what we know in the ground today, and it's going to be so different there that we're going to be completely wrong just because we're bringing the wrong assumptions into it, and it will make a huge difference there. Thanks. Gary in DeBerry, Florida. Appreciate that good word. Thank you. Shirley says, I think it'll be a blend of religions. That, I don't think people would just be totally atheist. You have to have too much faith to be totally atheist, and people don't have that much faith. People have always liked some kind of religion, so you just make up your own. Cafeteria approach to religion is not a hard thought to bring that about. Thanks. Now, we move to Jen in Washington State. Did I see you were on today, Jen? I don't know. This question came in, I think, on Sunday. But glad you were here. Oh, this is Jennifer in Washington who's online. But the question today comes from Jen in Washington, who's a different one. Jen says, I'm interested in my son who's in the 10th grade, just taking your Bible classes to go toward his high school credits. He goes to a Christian homeschool hybrid now. Can he just take Bible? Yes, he can, Jen. And I will get with you and let's see here. Maybe can I? Let me see if I can show you one of these without showing you a student's name and well, let's see. I think this one works. I did this random. So I'm just checking here and make sure I don't have. Let me go back. The student got 100 on this one. So here is one of the. That's not it. Here is one of the students' work for that particular class, and he had upper grade Bible unit, upper grade Bible 2. Yes, there's also Upper Grade Bible 1, Unit 3. How's that for coding? Introduction to Paterology. Define paterology and explain why the doctrine of God the Father deserves distinct theological treatment. There we go. What is paterology? Some of you all were probably saying that. And paterology is the study, the person and role of the Father within the Godhead and his work in history. I think it deserves distinct treatment. He's the initiator of creation. He's the architect of redemption. He's the final authority over history. Here's the Father's role within the Trinity, the centrality of the Father in biblical revelation. Why this matters is the beginning of a unit here. So studying the Father deepens our understanding of the Godhead and strengthens our grasp of Scripture. It corrects the imbalance that often elevates Christology and pneumatology while leaving the Father's role vague. You know, we got got Christology, we got pneumatology, and we got theology proper, which is about Christology and pneumatology, and the Father barely gets anything. So some key terms, some takeaways there. And then they got a few questions. You see, this student, I happen to have the answers here. But they got 10 questions here. A couple of those are always little short answer questions, like explain why a clear understanding of the Father's role helps in studying of the Trinity. And this student did quite well on that one. So yeah, we can get your student involved in that also, and get you taken care of. I will send you an email. Jen up in Washington, I appreciate that. Thank you very much for your interest. That's John Nelson Darby Academy for those of you who are interested in more of that. Thank you. Thank you. And let's go to Randy down in Corsicana, Texas. What if the Spirit told Paul to go to Macedonia? And the Spirit, I guess, did tell Paul to go to Macedonia. But what if he did it because he knew the grace gospel wouldn't be accepted there? Then, wouldn't be accepted there then. Nor now. Okay, this goes back to the previous question a little bit, but about the Muslim countries and Turkey. He was in what today is Turkey. What if God says, come to Macedonia and help us? Go ahead and cross the Aegean Sea. Greece, I think, is majority Christian. Turkey not. Of course, Turkey, for a long time was the center of the world, really. Constantine and Constantinople. But even before the scriptures closed, Paul says, all who are in Asia left me. He's talking about that area. So what if he knows, hey, they are going to go into this, first of all, Petrine rather than Pauline-based mix-up of Christianity. And then they are going to be overtaken by Islam. Does that have anything to do with the fact that they were so messed up biblically that they let Islam come in and conquer them? I don't know. It'd be interesting to study. But nonetheless, they become then, from, I don't know, at least 1400, they lose their Christian status, kick off the Reformation, I should say the Renaissance, or Renaissance, depending on where you're from. And they become Islam and go into their dark ages, so to speak. It's an interesting thought to put that together and say, could it happen? But certainly was, as Stephen in Shrewsbury says, it was hundreds of years later before Islam even became a thing. And then, I don't know, let's see, it was, I know 1463 or 1417, wasn't it? 1417 that the Ottoman Turks overtook the Eastern Empire, Constantinople. They probably had a lot of influence before then, but I think that's when it took over. If my world history serves me correctly, some of you may remember. So literally, it was 1400 years before Islam became strong enough to take over that? Was the Holy Spirit, calling to Macedonia? How early was that? As what was going on there? That little more challenging, difficult to figure out there. Hey, I see we've got Peter the Workman in the Netherlands with us today. He and I just did a little podcast. It'll be available here sometime soon. I've had a nice little, hour and a half or 2 hour interview, and was fun to go in. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our next question today. And we're going to go to Charles down in Tampa, Florida. Thanks, Charles, for being here. I think I got Tampa correct, didn't I? Charles says, I'm really enjoying the Thursday night Torah study. Thank you. I appreciate that. It came up yesterday, too. Reflecting on session 3, everyone included by station, and session 4, the necessity of inclusion of salt in every meal offering. Okay. Session 3, we talked about the men, the women, the children, the priests, the kings, their station in life. Session 4, we talked about the various offerings that were brought for certain purposes. But the meal offerings, often called the grain offering, did have, I mentioned it, but I didn't put a lot into it, that all of them had to have salt. Every grain offering or meal offering, or King James meat offering, had to have salt. So here's the question. Is there a connection between the Sermon on the Mount, ye are the salt of the earth? Is it plausible to assume, bring forth the assumption right at the top, is it plausible to assume Jesus's audience was primarily the peasant class? More to this. The peasant class, probably they would not own their own fields. They would glean the first fruits. I don't know. We would want to check this out. My guess is no. I may be wrong on this, though. If you're just gleaning, do you have to give an offering of first fruits? I think the offering of first fruits was sort of encompassing of the corners of the field. That field has already been first fruited, if you will. So far the plausibility continues because they're not having to bring their grain offering, I think, technically on this. Now, I know we've sort of made this the thing of the heart, and it's like, well, they would want to, the good godly people that they are, but we're bringing out a lot of just Christian theology in that instead of what actually the law required. I don't think they would have to bring first fruits from their gleaning if they are the peasant class. That's another assumption there. But if they are the peasant class, they're just gleaning, wouldn't have to bring. So could it be, hey, ye are the salt of the earth? Now let's go on. Reflecting the components of the meat offering, the landowner class could provide the grain, the oil, the frankincense, and probably would. But if these three were the only elements, would the meek be disenfranchised due to poverty? So here in a more literal sense, okay, you got the rich guys bringing frankincense and oil and fine flour. I'm too poor to bring any of that, but I can bring salt. Maybe. It might be allegorizing or spiritualizing it too much, but maybe let's try to go with it here a little bit. Was the inclusion of salt a token or a substitution, including the poor, since salt is simply taken from the earth? Now, of course, at one point, salt, we get the word salary from it, not worth his weight in salt or whatever. It went from, let's say, at one time in a great commodity, maybe even expensive commodity, to dirt cheap. So those who are poor could probably come up with salt. As a matter of fact, next time you're poor and the church is having a potluck, why don't you say, I'll bring the salt. A product of the sea, which, there's a number of ways to get salt, but certainly you can get it from the sea, the masses. In Matthew 5:13, you're the salt of the earth. Was Jesus saying more than we see? Was he correcting the disenfranchisement by the Pharisees of the poor with the analogy of salt into the kingdom which he was preaching? I'm gonna go with a maybe. But you know how the Jews read a number of levels, Pardis? I don't think that one's on the surface level, but you certainly could say, okay, you got salt in the offerings, it's got to be there. Yeah, all the connections you have made are not wholly unfounded. You can't necessarily nail them down, but I think you've got a possibility there. Now, as a follow-up, Charles says, I am beginning to consider the Greek word ge, which is earth or land, with the same interpretive caution as we do the word ethnos for Gentiles versus diaspora Jews. Yeah, let me stop right there. This is another one of those words that should make you pause, that I didn't have that word in the particular series, but you have that word ge, and you've got, is this earth? Is it land of Israel? Is it the plot of ground that you're on? Is it dirt? Plant the flower in the ge. You could say plant it in the earth. But you're really saying in that dirt right there, plant it. So it is a word that goes from all the dirt on the earth down to this pot of dirt right here. So you do have to use some interpretive caution there. Young's literal translation translates Matthew 5:13, ye are the salt of the land. And it's not unfounded. They didn't make that up. It is interpretive. The occurrences and usages of the Greek ge, at least in the Gospels, is the majority of the context. It is majority in the context of the land of Israel. I think I would agree with you there that by taking it earth, we're reading too much of our, I'll say, replacement theology, where the land of Israel is not so much of a big thing, to covenant theologians or replacement theologians. And so there is this slip into the earth, like he's talking about Florida or something, New Mexico, and he's clearly not. We take you are the salt of the earth to be, you're a little flavor, and you're a little preservative. Oh, that's good. And so the truth is, we spiritualize it as well. And what Charles is doing is saying, hey, wait, let's back up here. Did they have a context in which they took it? And I would guess you could go to YouTube today and pick out 25 sermons on you are the salt of the earth, and 25 of them would be about how sweet and wonderful you're supposed to be as a Christian. Missing the whole thing of what was salt in that society. It was more than a preservative. It was more than flavor. It was part of Torah and the Torah sacrificial system. So how are they part of the Torah sacrificial system? You've got some excellent thinking as you're going here when you take, you're the salt of the land. All that to say, Charles says, is there greater kingdom-specific depth to the salt of the earth text? Please explore and let me know your thoughts. Well, I haven't explored it other than what we've been right here, but I would say that you are completely on the right track in trying to take that in their context instead of in ours. One of the big hermeneutical principles is, how did the first audience hear this? And that largely is the way you have to take it. You know, if the text tells you they misunderstood it, then you can understand, okay, they had a misunderstanding. But if you don't have something like that, then how did they take it is something that you would have to consider in a real strong way to put that together. I think you got it. I think you're on the right path. Thank you. Charles does have a follow-up. For the meal offering, you wouldn't offer a lame animal. You wouldn't offer moldy grain. You wouldn't offer pine sap. You're exactly right. You are the salt of the earth. There's some involvement that is given there of what he's saying to the Jewish people. I would agree. Let's see. I see we have Jake here online with some conversation going on. There's quite a bit of it there, and I haven't read all the way through it. But Jake, glad you're here anyway. What we do here is, Jake, is we question the assumptions. We are persnickety. We rightly divide the word of truth. So we don't mix everything. And you may be a wonderful right divider right with us here. I'm just not sure. I haven't seen your name, and so I want to welcome you and say glad you're here. If you'd like to ask a question anytime, you or anyone else on the live chat, just put the word question first, or go to randywhiteministries.org, and you can carry that out. And I see Gerard has some passages there. There's a number of New Testament passages and talking about Muslims and says this belief sends them straight to hell. It says agreed. I'm going to say no, I don't agree. Their lack of faith in the gospel of Jesus Christ is what sends them straight to hell. So whether they believe that or they believe, in flying unicorns and, polka-dotted Santa Clauses, it's not the world's belief system that send you to hell. It's the failure to receive the gospel of Jesus Christ, which is so simple for everyone. So I would word that differently, personally. Thank you for that. And again, there's Jake's got some questions, several of you, about slaves. I'm not exactly sure what the whole discussion is there. Sorry, too much for me to be able to pick up on that and take care of that. But if you do have a question on it, send it in. We'll pick that up tomorrow at... Go to randywhiteministries.org and click the Ask a Question button there. Appreciate it. Okay, thanks for being here with us. We're going to be here all week long. Look forward to seeing you with us on Ask the Theologian, or Wednesday night we'll be in 1 Thessalonians, and introduce some missionaries too, the Chavez family, and Marta Cordero will be with us. I'll be teaching, but we'll have a little introduction time for them, and then Thursday night, we're going to get back into the Torah. We're going to look at some things like, did Jesus fulfill the law? Did Jesus abolish the law? Was Paul against the law? Whatever it is, we're going to look at some of those in Living the Torah series. It'll be fun on Thursday night, and great to have each one of you. Thanks for joining us here today, and we shall see you soon. God bless.